So, thanks for being here. And we have a really cool class tonight. I'm excited. Tonya joined me on Monday, and we kind of talked about self-advocacy and just we're kind of working into we're going to do a series on kind of the mental aspects of nutrition and being healthy and all the good things. So I asked Tonya to help because she is very knowledgeable, and it ended up being such an awesome class that I said, "Oh, hey, so could you please do this again on Thursday with me because they need this too." So we will listen to or we'll hear from Tonya, but we would love, you know, any feedback and any questions and thoughts, all the things too. So thank you so much, Tonya, for being here with us again.
Absolutely. Thank you. I'm excited. So yes, please drop comments in the chat, unmute yourself, share. So super. I love the informal vibe. So anything that you have, please bring that up. So I'm Tonya, and I'm actually a life coach, and I really help guide women to break those generational patterns in like thought patterns, behavior patterns, which is perfect because it's exactly what we're doing in this group. And with that comes a lot of those, some resistance to all of this. So I'm excited. So let's get going. What I have seen with a lot of the women that I have worked with, because we're all here in this group to create big change in ourselves, right? In our lives, in our families, and not just for our own experience. I mean, that's enough, but also because we want to change that for our kids. Apparently, my cat wants to talk too. So my cat's all vocal because I'm being vocal. Um, so sorry, that was a distraction. Okay, so what happens is we get into this space where we're ready to create change. And we come at it from this place of, I want to keep and maintain the status quo for everyone else in my life. And I've seen this time and time again with people who are starting businesses, people who are starting a health and wellness. Maybe they're starting a job, a new job, going back to work, possibly, or ending a career, whatever that might look like. And they end up really wanting to not rock the boat. We as women, not rock the boat. We want to be able to make sure that we're still able to pick up our kids from school or get them to school. We're still taking care of all the household, the chores, all the things that we need to do. And really, what's happening is we're saying, I will keep everything that I have been doing, and I'm going to create this new shift, new change, new essentially experience in the life and within the family. And I want everything to remain the same for all of you. And that's great in theory, but what ends up happening is we get incredibly burned out. Before long, we become resentful. We end up taking on too much, and it doesn't take very long for us to see that this is a bottomless pit where we are going to continue to give and give and give and overgive and overgive and overgive and really not reap the benefits of any of that or have that support that we need. So, really looking at where we can shift that in the beginning, if possible, by having those conversations. And if we're right in the middle of it, or we've already been in the middle of it and we're starting to feel those burnout, those changes, those resentments coming up, then to be able to say, okay, we need to have a discussion. These things can't maintain anymore. So, what that ends up looking like is asking for help. So we're also not used to or very good at asking for help, right? Or maybe we've kind of tried or we've hinted at it before and it doesn't really go anywhere. And one of the reasons why that is because when we really look at, I do believe that we teach people how to treat us. So when we look at how we have created that situation, created that scenario where we've asked and asked and asked, and when nobody shows up and does the task or the thing, we get angry, we get resentful, we end up doing it anyway. And so they're seeing, well, they're asking, but she has it covered. She's fine. We got this. So we're really kind of, things aren't falling through the cracks. Things are still getting done at our expense. But really, what they're doing is they're seeing that, oh, well, they really can do it. So I really don't need to help her in that way. So it's really starting to look then at what are my expectations? What am I bringing into this that I can start to let go of? Like just like what Tiffany just said, where can I not worry about the dishes? Where can I take a nap because that's going to support me even better? Where can I let some things go? Because that's another thing that we try to do is it's almost like we hyperfixate on the little things when we get busy with all this stuff. And we try to make sure that the house is completely spotless and completely immaculate. And there's something within us that is wanting to set off the appearance that no, 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 everything is good, everything is fine. See how perfect the house is, see how perfect all this stuff is. When really what we're doing is we're dying inside in a way, right? Where we're really just overdoing everything. So, looking at that within our own lives and where we want to move from here and how we want to make that shift, it's looking at it really is okay if the dishes aren't done, if the laundry isn't folded, if the kids have a messy face, if the kids have a messy room. Whatever those things may be that we recognize that we're starting to see ourselves kind of trying to control or hyperfixate on, where those are the first areas where we can start to relax. The other thing is to really be able to have people step in and step up. This is going to our partner. This is going to our kids. This is where we're starting to say, set those boundaries where we're saying, hey, this is what I'm doing. I'm changing the way that I eat. I'm changing the way that I exercise. I'm taking care of my body. And I'm making one meal. I'm not making several meals for you guys anymore, or I'm not going to start that. So this is what I'm making. I will do my best to choose things that I think that you will like. But if I don't, you're always welcome to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich for yourself or something along those lines. And I'm not going to make it for you unless they're super little. And I'll tell you, they can learn really quick when they're little how to make their own. So teach them, show them once or twice, and they actually love it when they get to make their own food, especially when they're super little. They think that they're amazing. So looking for ways to be able to set those boundaries with this is what I'm eating. Here are your options. Sometimes we have picky eaters in the house, and that's okay. Same thing can go with them. I've worked with people in the past who are like, well, my guy will only eat meat and potatoes. Okay, he is more than welcome to eat the meat that you made and make his own potato or whatever that can be. So really looking at where can we set those boundaries? How can we pick up or have others kind of pick up some of that slack? Sometimes in, let's just say the food and nutrition, if we're not wanting to like make additional meals, right? Where else can we shift that? So it's like, okay, this is all you really are willing to eat. I will make you the meat and potatoes that you're used to, or the pasta, or whatever it is that you want. But I need you to help with this or help with that. So we can kind of have the compromise in have that compromise in the chores or in the things that need done. Because then it's like, well, yeah, I'll do that for you because you're doing this for me. And it feels equal, right? We're kind of distributing some of those tasks equally. It doesn't feel like one more thing that you have to do that's eating up your time and energy. And ultimately, that does help because when we're happy, we're showing up completely differently with our family. When we're taking care of our bodies, when we're taking care of our mental health, when we are making those changes within us, it's adding to our self-confidence, and that's benefiting the whole family, the whole entire vibe of the family. Do you guys have any questions with any of that, or does this resonate with you in any way at this point? Okay, I'm guessing no questions.
I could, I'll add my 2 cents.
Please,
Um,
please.
when I finally stopped making extra food for my picky eaters and finally kind of changed how we were eating and what we were doing because we've always been a very meat and potatoes family and not necessarily anything wrong with that, but I said, okay, let's also throw some lean meat in, let's throw some veggies in, let's do things just a little bit different. And I decided there is nothing wrong with just making the one meal, and I do what I call deconstructed meals. Here's our protein, here's our grain or whatever, starch, and just everything's kind of separate so that if the pickier ones can kind of say, I do want this, I don't want this, and it kind of it makes it that's a good way to do with picky toddlers too, because they can really kind of experiment. What do I like? What do I not like? But then there's still elements that they'll most likely eat. So we ate like that quite a bit. But when I first started working out at home, for one thing, from going from being at a gym for a long time, and then started doing our meals differently, it was a weird sense of almost like shame of I'm throwing my family into this tither. We're doing all this crazy stuff and it seems weird. And, I'm working out in the kitchen or something and everybody's like, what the heck are you doing? Making fun of me, this and that. And I just kind of decided I am doing this because I need to do this. I am doing this because this is a part of me. This helps me feel like more like myself. And I am going to continue to do this, whatever it looks like, whatever works for me at the time. And really what came from it was now, my boys are, they work out. They'll even just work out at home or something. And I think, okay, would they have been willing to do that had they not had kind of an example set? I mean, they might have for sure. But, you do kind of set a precedent with your example. And then with the meals, they were definitely old enough by then, the boys, that they could make their own things, and sometimes they did. And my one, well, actually, they're both great cooks now. But my one, he would just kind of come up with whatever. And my rule was cook whatever you want, use whatever you want, clean up after yourself, and that makes you feel that guilt of like, this is my job, this is my job. I'm supposed to be doing this. No, no, they need to learn that, we make it look easy a lot of the time as women. And we make it just look like we are able to just handle it. We are able to just do it because we do just pick up the slack and everything. Well, when they start taking turns helping with dinner or making their own dinner, and then it's like, oh, and the dishes and the cleanup and take the trash out and do this. And it's like, oh, now I appreciate a little bit more what you do. And once we're able to kind of get past that feeling guilty thing, we realize how beneficial it is for them to learn those skills themselves because, you know, both of my boys, they like to cook. And that's a really great quality to have in a man. My daughter-in-law doesn't love to cook. And so she loves that my son cooks and my other son, his girlfriend loves to cook and they cook together. And that is something they do together. And I think, and it was a really sweet comment or compliment my husband paid me the other day. He said, you really taught our boys to cook and to appreciate healthy food and to be able to do these skills that are kind of, I mean, really kind of lacking in society anymore. And that was a huge, yeah, that was a huge, huge compliment for me. And so I think that once we are able to kind of break past that guilt of feeling like we should be doing all of this and realize that it is good for everyone pull, and then we can all do our own part and things go a lot better. So, yeah.
I love that. And one of the ways that is really help leading into that, everybody pulling their own part, is we forget as women because so much is going on in our head. We are overthinkers. Like we have created this entire situation and everything it's going to look like and blah, blah, blah in our mind. And we don't share it. We don't talk about it. It's just in our mind. And then we just start going to town. I mean, could you imagine if we had to like inform everyone of everything we did? It would be crazy. It would take us forever. So we just get into this habit of doing. And a lot of times we make a shift or we make a change or we make a decision that we're going to do something for ourselves, like health and wellness or something, and we don't kind of bring the rest of the family along. That's all been done in our head. If you're like me, it's like I can actually compose the text in my head and never send it or never actually, and I'm like, I swear I responded. What the heck? It's kind of that type of a thing where we've already created this change. We're already orchestrating stuff. But the family, a lot of times, all they're seeing is the shift. And sometimes they're not even noticing that we're exercising. They're not even noticing that we're changing the way that we eat because a lot of times we do that before we come home or while they're all gone. They don't actually witness all of it, some of it maybe, but not all of it. And they definitely don't know what's going on and don't recognize or see the physical shifts that we're making, but they sense and feel the shifts that we're making. And even when we start feeling more positive and more confident, most of our loved ones want to support us in that, but they don't know what we're doing because we haven't shared that. So they're on shaky ground. They're nervous. They're wondering what's going on, what's happening with mom, what's going on. And so really to be able to calm the vibe of those who are there really to love and support us and to get their input, it's really to inform them. I'm worried about my health, or I care about my health, or I have no energy and I want to feel better. I want to feel like I'm supporting my body and I want to feel like you guys are having healthy, nutritious food too. Like whatever that is, even kind of helping paint that picture. This is how I've been and I really don't feel this good or this well. This is what is your why that brought you into this program? Sharing that with your family, sharing that with your kids and your partner, and being able to say, there's going to be some changes. I don't know what they are. I don't know exactly what they're going to look like, but I'll ask for your help along the way as soon as I know. And just really allowing it to be uncertain, because a lot of times we're like, I want to have it all figured out already. And then I can just say, here's what I need from you. And I guess in a perfect world, maybe that would work, but that has never worked for anyone, myself or anyone I've worked with. So being able to just leave it a little bit open and even commenting on some of it, like I'm so proud of myself for this, or really just like what Tiffany was saying with teaching her boys how to cook and really teaching them to value healthy food. Think about the shifts that you feel already, like proud of the fact that I followed this meal plan to a T this week, or whatever that might be. I learned how to make a new recipe, or I exercised for this many days. Like for me today, it's I went outside and walked this morning in the snow, and I'm allergic to cold. So, I'm just like, that's a win for me. And when we're sharing those wins, just from that place of excitement, that excitement is contagious, especially with our kids and even with our partners. A lot of people, once we start feeling good and we start bringing in that fun and we make things more enjoyable, it's contagious and people pick that up. We will have some who are like, your success is kind of mirroring back and throwing me some things I don't like to see because we see that. When I'm watching you be successful, then in my mind, I'm seeing and making judgments about myself. It's the comparison trap, right? We do that with others. Well, when we start making shifts, others can do that with us too. And that's just recognizing that, maybe they want the status quo. Maybe they don't want things to change for themselves. They want the unhealthy food, or they want the person who goes out and has a glass of wine or a beer with them every dinner or every date night or whatever, and things have changed a little bit. And so there can be almost that nostalgia or even that like, well, if she can do it, I can do it. So now what's my excuse? But I don't want to. So they have a lot of stuff going on within them. If we really look closely, we recognize times in our life when we've done the same thing. So recognizing that that is going to be there and that is okay, and just allowing them to have their experience. And a lot of times we're kind of programmed or expected to make everybody feel okay, make everybody feel better. I need to fix this for you. So if someone is feeling uncomfortable because of watching us be successful in this adventure that we're on, it's almost like we feel that we need to make them feel better. And so sometimes we'll self-sabotage or we'll quit or we will stop doing these practices because I don't want to make them feel bad or they're starting to have this reaction. Well, we're taking away their learning experience when we do that. So for me, I'm really big on you stick to your goals. You do your one day at a time plan, one meal at a time plan, and let them have their experience. If they're interested and want to talk to you, great. If they don't, great. That's up to them. They can sit and swim in it, but they will get to really just have that experience and learn those lessons as they go. Um, And then also the reminder of, because sometimes we get into this thought loop that taking care of ourselves is selfish, right? Spending extra money on ourselves, doing these self-care type things, maybe it's exercise, maybe it's different food and it's costing different, different or shifting the grocery budget a little bit, those kind of things that can happen. Even things like going out a little bit more or whatever your self-care thing is, if it costs time or money, which it's going to have to, one or the other, if not both. But we get stuck in this space of I shouldn't be doing that for me. It's selfish of me to do this. I am the only one benefiting, and here's my family that could also use that in these variety of ways. And I love to be able to investigate that. This is like that's the work that I do. That's what I really love to do is that deep dive of who says it's selfish? Why do they get to be right? Those are my two favorite questions. And it doesn't have to be selfish. You can fill that in with any word. Who says and why do they get to be right? Because when we really start looking at it, when we start saying they, like whoever they are, it's usually fictitious. It's not people that we actually know. And sometimes it is. Sometimes our partner's telling us that we're selfish, or sometimes a parent is telling us that we're selfish. Maybe even our kids are telling us that we're selfish. And I love that because I don't love the feeling of that. It's not fun in the moment. But when we really start looking at that, what are they really saying? They're really saying, I recognize the shift in you. I recognize that it's affecting me and it's making me feel uncomfortable. Change happens when we're uncomfortable. So for me, I'm like, awesome, this is your experience for change. But then there's also like that really being able to recognize that it's not me that's being selfish. It's them trying to control my behavior, trying to shift it for their advantage or for their benefit. Not that that's a bad thing, but it's really just looking at it from that awareness and being, instead of being jumping to defense or jumping to resentment, being able to look at it in a different way. Having that conversation, like, what about this makes you feel that way? Why do you think that this is a thing? And really start opening up and having some of that dialogue within the family can be really helpful too. So, does anyone deal with any of that? I'm curious. If you're on here and you can drop it in the comments, that's new to you, or if you've noticed anything like that. No? Okay. Well, then we'll move on. Unless you wanted to say something to any of that, Tiff.
I mean, I could say something to all of it, but I know that there's other people that definitely deal with the same things. But it's funny because I hadn't thought of it before, but like when I had my meal prep business still, I ended up hiring a lady, like a housekeeper, and I would pay her extra to help with my dishes. Well, you can only imagine the insane amount of dishes I had cooking, sometimes 140 meals. And so I started doing this, and I mean, my cute mom, I love her to death, but she's really funny about I would never pay someone to clean my house. I would never pay someone to clean my car. And I definitely had to, on my own, figure out kind of how to break that down and go, I don't think she's trying to make me feel guilty because that's not her personality, but kind of where is this coming from or what is this? And I think it's that is not a luxury she ever would have had at all. She wouldn't have ever even had the chance to do something like that. And so I thought, in she does tend to kind of live in she's like really positive, but kind of also she's just not really growth minded usually. And so it's like even possibilities sometimes don't translate into how they could even come to fruition to her. And so it's kind of been a lot of inner work to be able to figure that out of, she's not being mean. And I do think, like you said, a lot of the people in our lives, they do want us to be happy. They do want us to be healthy. They do not always like when it reflects back on them because that definitely is one of those harsh, like, whoa, I wasn't looking for that, internal little glance there. But, I do think for the most part, they do want us to be able to grow. And sometimes too, for me, because for a while I definitely felt like I was just like I'm doing this, I kind of went from one, like, oh, this is selfish. Oh, I shouldn't be doing this, to like, no, I am doing this and this is good, and keep up or don't. And to now where I'm a little more patient. Like I really realized they, they've had to catch up with what I'm doing. I can, kind of meet in the middle a little bit. That doesn't mean I'm going to break down those walls and those boundaries of, hey, this is where I'm at, and this is what I'm doing. But it does mean I can be like, oh, a little bit more willing to, I guess, to voice kind of things that I'm seeing or feeling, or something like that. But I do think that just being able to recognize where someone else's kind of insecurities or pushback on your changing is coming from is a good skill, a big
Mhm.
skill to learn.
I love that. And I feel like, and she's absolutely sharing her truth, right? In her time when she's raising kids, she never would have done that. And like you were saying, it was probably never an option. But especially, it can be, I mean, it can be our friends, it can be our siblings, but especially the parents or grandparents, kind of that older generation, aunts, uncles, those, all of that. They literally did grow up in a different time than we did. So the options that we have now and the shift in the way things are that are going now, they truly can't fathom having that option. And sometimes when that's in front of their face, because it can cause that feeling within them of, so you could do this all along. It's almost like, so if she can do it, I probably could have done it. And why didn't I get to do it? And there creates a lot of disturbance within them. Most people are not that aware, self-aware to know what's going on. They're just jumping to the criticism because it's easy and it's programmed and we know what to do with criticism. So yeah, just recognizing that they really don't know and they really are sharing their truth and they really are coming from that place of, well, I would never. Well, yeah, they probably never would have, and that doesn't mean that has to be your experience, nor are we going to try to judge ourselves for a lifestyle that we have now that wasn't even an option 30, 40, however many years ago, right? So I love, love, love that. Moving into a slightly different direction, looking at a lot of what we do, yeah, yes, definitely. Navigating a space where we're okay and accept ourselves can be tricky with other people's ideas and perspectives. I think being okay with our choices and owning them is a huge part, and take what you like and leave the rest. Most of the time, people are reflecting on their insecurities. You're spot on, Cassie. I love that so much. And thank you for sharing that too, because I feel like that really just encompasses all of that. And what a beautiful way to be compassionate, right? Like, this is the definition of compassion, being able to see that within them and then still have that love and compassion for ourselves to put ourselves on that priority list. So I love it. So, another thing that can be super helpful as we move forward with all of this is looking at adulting at large has become really unfun. Do you remember when you were in high school and you were like, I can't wait until I'm out. I can't wait until I'm on my own. I'm going to do my own thing. Here's all of my plans, right? And even if we had these goals or dreams, the biggest vibe underneath was that I get to decide. I get to create my life, whatever that may be. And so then we get into this adulting thing and we realize that it's maybe not quite what we had it cracked up to be, right? It's not as fun as we thought. But a lot of times that's just because we're stuck in the rut of everything. I love the idea of bringing magic to the mundane. That's what I call it, where seeing the sunrise is magical. Having that super yummy food is magical. It's a gift. Like, that's my word for it, just because the word is fun to me. But whatever your word is, use your word. But really, how can we bring more play into the things that we're doing? And especially, so for me personally, I was on a super awesome health and wellness kick several years ago. I was teaching fitness classes. I had like the six pack abs, the hashtag arm goals, the whole thing. I was super into all of that. And then my dad passed away and my habits just disappeared, um, along with all of the definition, which is a bummer. But it's so now here I am, and I have this. I recognized that I was in this headspace of, I just got to get back into it. And even as I say that, can you feel how that just feels unfun? I just got to get back into it. I've just got to get back in the habit. It feels hard. It feels like I'm trying. There's already resistance in that way that I'm describing that. I mean, it's already embedded there. So, of course, it's going to be a quote unquote struggle to be able to do that. Versus, well, and the reason that that happens is because we are putting all of the weight of our results onto an activity. So we have what I call the so that. So it is, I'm eating healthy so that whatever, what is that for you? Is it so that I lose 10 pounds, so that I manage an autoimmune condition, so that I, even if it's so that I have more energy and hang out with my kids, I mean, positive, whatever it is, it's still a so that, and we're still putting responsibility and weight on that activity. That's what weighs things down and makes them heavy. It can be beneficial in the beginning, especially if I want to see my energy increase so that I can actually catch my kids when I chase them, or so that I can have more fun in my life, or so that I have the energy to do all these things, to travel, to whatever it is that your desires are. So it's okay, but eventually we want to be able to shift and be able to do those things just for the sake of the way I feel. I love to go on my walks in the morning. I love to see the animals out there. I love to notice the changing in the seasons. That is what I love about it. And what my body does as a result is the bonus. And then I want to up it a little bit. Maybe this time I'm going to jog a little just for the fun of it because my body's like, hey, let's push, let's go, let's do. So, really, you can recognize the shift from I have to do this so that I can get my health underway, so I can, because I made a goal and I have to get back to there or whatever that may be, versus, oh, this sounds fun. What if I do this today? Or, I'm one of those people, I was not talented in the kitchen. There was no, I got none of those genes. So I love to eat food, but that's about it. Everything else with food, I don't love. So when I come to the food with this heavy weight and all this expectation that this is, I do believe that food is medicine. I believe it is our number one health support. And so I know that, but when I come to it from that place of I need to eat healthy so that my body's healthy, it still feels heavy. So how can you shift within your own life, within your own goals, from putting all of the weight of the results on, like, see if you can find a way to shift that so that you're not putting the weight of the results on the activity or the goal or like the how to with it. Um, that can be a really big thing. And I was seeing that a lot within myself and within even people that I work with for meditation. So we're doing meditation and we're practicing meditation. And I started noticing the words that were coming for them was because I want it to help me with my anxiety. I want it to help me with my depression. And I'm like, whoa, we're putting all the weight onto the meditation. And that makes it really heavy and it makes it feel really unfun. So yes, there is a lot of fun in adulting. We have just gotten too tied up in the busyness and in the doing and putting a so that on everything we do, right? I'm going to my kids' practices so that I'm going to my kids' games so that I'm putting them in dance so that like whatever activity it is, we have a so that on the end of almost everything. So look at those, take a look at your so that's and see if there's anything that you can just step back. You don't, it's not a doing. This isn't a doing. This is a being. So you don't have to do anything with it. Just be aware of what that, so that is for you and let it go. Just let that part go. I'm going to exercise. My goal is to exercise 5 days a week. Maybe you have a routine. I do better when I can be spontaneous with it. Other people do really well when they have it structured. That's up to an individual. So choose yours and I'm moving 5 days a week just because for that. Just that is my so that, just because. So that can also be really helpful as you start to shift and really allowing ourselves to bring in just the experience and experience the experience without having the weight of the expectation and the result on top of it. Does that help any of you guys? Can you see that in your own life? Do you recognize where you might be putting weight on this experience, even in this group?
Sorry, what was the question? I was helping my daughter with something. I
Oh, you're
apologize.
good. No, I was just wondering if you can see yourself putting that conditions of so that on any of the goals or habits that you're making while you're in this program.
I definitely feel that. Um, but at the same time, I'm like, if I don't have that, so that, then why would I even want to eat healthy? Like, I'd much rather eat the junk food because it tastes better. But
Right? Yep. And that's why, in the beginning, have your so that. So I think that's important to really pay attention to because when we start something new, like a new exercise routine or eating healthy, wherever it is that your entry point is in this, maybe it's both. Having that so that can make it really exciting, right? So that I lose weight, so that I know that I'm supporting my body with health and food. But at some point, that might shift. And so that's what we're watching for are those little clues within us where the so that no longer holds the weight that it did. I'm exercising so that I have the energy to keep up with my kids, so that I lose X amount of pounds or whatever the goal may be. And then if we have a little setback, if instead of dropping weight, we gain weight, or we're not seeing the results as quickly, that so that can really fall down super quick when we kind of hit that frustration wall. And so you can look for a new so that at that point, or at that point, a lot of times it's pushed through, right? It's looking at I'm at week 5, and that's where self-sabotage comes in. So I just need to write out the self-sabotage because I know it's here. Between week 4 and 5, I know that's tough or whatever that is for you. And that is my so that I can push through this self-sabotage week and get to the other side. So looking at where you can shift those when that comes up. If you're still in that super excited stage and the so that is helping you, keep it. But just pay attention for at some point that to kind of shift. And if you notice that, that's a time to either choose something, shift it somehow, or just start noticing what about this makes me feel good? What about this makes me happy? Just kind of looking for something different. Does that help? I think that was Rachel that said that. Does that help you?
yeah, I think so. It's definitely something really interesting to think about. So,
Yeah.
Well, and it's
Play with
funny.
it. If it fits, awesome. If it doesn't, throw it away.
It's funny to listen to you break it down that way and be able to like retrospectively go, oh, see in my own journey, and I'm sure I'm not the only person seeing this of, when you kind of explain it and make it, help me understand a little bit more because I'm funny with um and I do this more with like my husband or not even necessarily people I coach, but sometimes the people I coach, sometimes we have a little tough love. But it's, well, if I don't see this result at this time, then I'm gonna quit. Or then I better. It's more like I better see this result at this time. And I finally the one day said to my husband, I said, and then what? And then what? Are you gonna just are you gonna go back to complaining about what was bothering you before? Um, who are you punishing here? Who are you punishing with setting these expectations that are going to be hard to meet and giving an ultimatum, you know? Because I I also think back to early on trying to change our health habits, and well, we need to do this because then we need to be eating these foods. Like forever I thought I needed to eat yogurt because they make such a big deal about how healthy it is. Guys, I hate yogurt. I hate it so much. But I had in my head that it was something I had to do and it was something, and so I would do these different things to try and make myself eat it. And then it just would create this worse thing. And really, my only goal was to eat better. But like we've all gone through, what does that look like? What does that mean? To what end? And my soul that usually was to lose weight. It usually was. And talk about, wanting to lose weight, putting a heavy weight on everything you're doing. If that's your only thing, I love the idea of having, the other whys and the things to get you started, to get you motivated, to help you, break down in your mind why you even care to do this, because aesthetics is rarely ever going to get you where you want to be alone. Just being able to look in the mirror is awesome and feel good about yourself, but it's usually not enough to help us stay in any big goals. And so looking back and going, as we started to make these changes and as I started kind of dropping off things that we hated, and instead I did make it fun. I didn't consciously necessarily make it fun, but I started going, well, I love these foods. And so how can I make them to where they are a little bit healthier for my family, or a little bit even lower calorie, higher protein, some things to help us meet our goals, but do it. It then was just a challenge, which was truly how the whole meal prep business was born, because I did continue to just challenge myself to create these things, and was it really was just you mentioned at some point, like experimenting, kind of experimenting with things, and what feels good to you. And that's when people come to me and do say, well, but these foods are, so important and I have to eat them, or what is the best exercise? What is the best exercise I can do? What is the best macro plan I can be on? And there is no best. There is experimenting. There is a lot to be said for being consistent, but I think the consistency is found in the kind of moving through the whole process and being able to identify where you even care to stay consistent, where you even want to be. And it does take that, I'm doing this so that, to now this is who I am. This is what I want to do. This is where I want to be. I don't care to go get fast food. I like what we cook here better. And it used to be that was a punishment. That was like I felt like that was a huge punishment for myself of, oh, no fast food. Because for some reason, I just really thought that was a cool, exciting thing. I don't know. I think I just uh, I assigned it more weight. I assigned it a title that really didn't actually apply. To me, I assigned it with like fun and enjoyment and, oh, I get the night off, whatever. But it didn't really amount to that. But it took a lot of, yeah, self-talk and learning to be able to kind of figure that out too. And we're going to cover that more in the following classes. But I think that I just guarantee I'm not the only person here that is listening and going, oh, you start here, you move into this, and this is how these things do become habits. You don't make things habits that aren't beneficial for you in any way, that are horrible to stick to, and that make you miserable. You just don't. And so at some point they have to evolve. Those things have to evolve, like you're saying, is where my brain goes. I don't know, maybe I'm
Mhm. I love it.
crazy.
Well, and what a beautiful way to get to know yourself, right? I believe personally that the most important relationship that we could ever have is the relationship we have to ourselves. And the best way to build that is to get to know ourselves, ask ourselves questions, just truly being aware. So for me, I used to really enjoy cooking, and I was cooking for my kids and I was doing all the things. And the last several years, I've just despised it with a passion. And I really started looking at what shifted for me because I didn't always feel that way. It's never been my favorite thing, but I didn't struggle with it like I do now. And it's recognizing that, I mean, my life has shifted so much. I instead of having three kids at home, I have two adult kids who've moved out, and now I have a 17-year-old and he's basically gone all the time. And then there's every other week he's at his dad's, and so I'm home alone all the time. And I realized that back when I was cooking for my kids, we have a small house. We were always like in under each other's feet. So even if they weren't in there cooking with me, I was in the kitchen cooking and they were, "Hey mom," and we had a lot of family interaction, and now I don't. And so I really had to be honest with, okay, that is the part that's bothering me about cooking. I'm not cooking to feed people anymore. It's just for me. And even if I have leftovers, there's just a different vibe. And I'm like I'm experimenting with how to shift that. I haven't figured out the answer to that. I'm doing it right now for the so that because that's where I'm at. But I know that eventually I'll get that figured out. It's just getting very, very aware. And that was what it took for me was that awareness with what's really going on. What is your problem with the kitchen? Why do you have, and I, for a long time, I thought it was this really unhealthy relationship with food. And then I realized, no, it's with cooking. Okay, what about that? And then it's like, oh, I mean, I'm really good alone. I enjoy my alone time, but I'm also like, it's not fun when there's no people on the other end of it for me. That's my thing. So just those little things can be so beneficial and teach us so much about ourselves too. All right. Let's see. And then I also think keeping that curious and inquisitive mind. A lot of what we do is there's a lot of judgment in everything we do, right? Self-judgment, judgment of others, and the antidote to judgment is curiosity. So where we catch ourselves in, I have to do it this way, or I'm messing up, or whatever those judgment thoughts can be, like we're super regimented. I can't experiment with anything else. I can't be inquisitive or willing to try something. I'm set on this one mode or I'm set on this one outcome. It has to be this or it has to be that. Anytime we're in that, really that closed mindset and that this is how it has to be, when we can bring in curiosity and we can experiment with things and bring in that antidote to judgment, we can really shift things for us. I know the first time I tried CrossFit and they wanted us to climb a rope, and I'm like, what the heck? I've never done that in my entire life. And then I tried it and I failed miserably, failed. I don't even like to say that word, but I did not get even close to the top. But I was intrigued and I wanted to try it again. And over time, before I knew it, I could climb all the way to the top and slap the whatever thing at the top of the whatever it was tied to or hooked to. And that was so cool to me. And I was like, had I not experimented with that and tried it, I never would have felt that accomplishment. And it was like once I had it done, I was done. I never really even wanted to try it again. But it was just so cool to go from, yeah, I'm not even going to try that to, okay, I'll try to, oh my gosh, I did. And so where do we have those judgments or those instant no's within us? And how can we use curiosity to kind of break through that and break through that judgment? Anytime we're judging ourselves, I failed here, I'm failing with this, it's not working, I don't have it. I don't know. What are some of the things that you say to yourself? If anybody thinks of what they're saying to themselves, feel free to put them in the chat. But I'm not good enough. This is never going to work. I don't have the stick with itness. Whatever your things are, um, really start bringing in that curiosity. Why do I feel that way? And just because maybe we have a lot of experience in the past that's like our evidence, right? Well, because last time and the time before and the time before that, yeah, that may be true for all of those, but you're still a different person today than you were before. So if I were to do it differently this time, what would it look like? That's a really good curious question for you to have for yourself. when you're going into that mode of self-judgment. Yeah, that's a big one where um you feel stifled by that even when I say it. Nobody cares, but do I care really is what I need to ask myself. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I was feeling stifled by when you were saying like the closed-mindedness.
Oh
It just
yeah.
like even just talking about it is like, ugh, like
Yeah,
I
you
just
can
it
feel it.
yeah, it feels negative and feels like I don't know, like it feels like a weight, like
Mhm.
you're not allowing, it's not the growth mindset. It doesn't allow you to like improve or change or, I think life is
Mhm.
ever changing. And so when we
Mhm.
get stuck in our that closed mind or just like it has to be this way, then it's really hard to
Mhm.
um I'm trying to think of the word, like I mean, especially like when when you're not in that mindset and you're dealing with people who are in that mindset, that's even more challenging sometimes because you have to like
Absolutely.
accept the fact that they don't want something different. So you're like, okay, well, am I going to accept that that's okay for them, but not okay for me?
Mhm. Yep, and that can be hard because we want to bring people with us, especially when we start feeling good. We want other people to feel good too. So that can be tough. I love the way you worded that, feeling stifled by that. I love it. Um, I had a thought with that and I was hoping it would come back. Oh, um, it's interesting because with that, when other people tell us what to do, it's, well, at least for me, maybe I'm speaking for myself, but it sparks that little, don't tell me how to live my life. Oh, no, you did not just tell me what to do. Like I get all spicy about that. And it really sparks that within me. But when I really start looking at things, I'm being more um, limiting to myself than anything ever anyone else has said, So where I'm over here getting all ticked off because they're telling me do it this way or don't do it that way, and I'm like, don't tell me how to live my life. But then I really start listening to my own voice and the things going on in my own head, and I'm telling myself this is how you have to do it, and this is what you have to do. And so if when I can shift that into myself, turn that flashlight on to me and be like, hello, you're doing that, even though it's not coming from outside, you're still holding yourself to that rigid, yeah, that makes you feel so stifled. Half the time I realize it's coming from me. It's my own. I've just bought into that hype of it has to be this way. So, and then I'm upholding it. So I love that just willingness to break out of that growth mindset or into that growth mindset. And then yeah, the phrases that go through our mind, nobody cares, but do I care? It's what I need to ask myself. Yep. And and I love playing pretend because that takes the weight of it off our shoulders when we can just pretend. Pretend you have a magic wand, you're waving a magic wand. What if you really cared about this goal? What would it look like? What behaviors, what thoughts, what types of things would you do if you could just wave a magic wand and pretend like you cared? And because we have that mental fight within ourselves where it's like, well, but I don't care. So we can sometimes even stop ourselves before we've moved forward. So when we have those negative things coming up in our mind, just, okay, waving a magic wand, I'm just going to go to pretend. What would it look like if I did care? Or what would it look like if I didn't self-sabotage? Or what would it look like if I chose not to have this for dinner and instead chose this? Or what would it look like if I was someone who chose health and chose to eat healthy? What would that look like? It really allows us to move into kind of that a little bit of that fantasy mindset, a little bit of that pretend, which really allows our creativity to come forward and we can solve those questions. We can really see what it starts to look like. And it takes us out of that internal combat mode. So that's another kind of tip that I like to use. Okay, that is kind of what I have. Is there anything else, Tiffany, or anything that I missed that?
I mean, I don't think so. I think that I just love this conversation and I think it's just a good one to keep going because I mean, it's crazy all the things that just these 2 nights that you've taught with us. I continue to still keep going, oh, that's why that changed for me. That's why this, helped. So go ahead, Cassie.
I'm okay to wait while you're finishing talking. I just wanted it before you, I didn't know if you're getting close to ending, so I wanted to just say something before we close. So
Yeah, you're good. We'll wrap up soon, but we've got a minute for sure. We're good. Go ahead. You're
well,
fine.
I was just thinking about something that I've learned recently, and I think it goes along with like what we've talked about a little bit. Um, and I've been a little bit interrupted tonight because I've had my kids like interrupting me. But so I've heard most of everything that's been said, but it sounds like, working on self is the focus here. And inner self, like, getting all these negative thoughts and working on like overcoming, whatever our roadblocks are that are keeping us from progressing. One thing that helped me like really change my mindset was because I don't know about you guys, but I grew up in the mindset that everybody was talking about me and everybody, was focusing, their whole life revolved around me and they were
Right.
probably talking about me all the time and thinking about me and how could they do that and why would they say that? And I don't know, you know what I mean? It's just we think so much that everybody's like so focused on us. And I teach school and I have kids in my classroom that are like so worried to share what they're sharing because I teach math and they get nervous because they don't want anybody to like look at them or talk about them if they don't know the answer. And a lot of times I'm just like, I say to like the kids, I'm like, what other people think about you is none of your business anyway. Like it's really and they aren't thinking about you. They're thinking about how everybody's thinking about them. Because like a lot of times everybody's having the same thoughts that you're having about yourself about themselves. Like
Yeah.
they think they're talking about you or they think, so it's like if we could just let go of those things and stop worrying so much about what other people think. And that phrase that someone told me once was, what other people think about you is none of your business. It just helped me so much to like overcome like that worry of what other people think. It seriously like changed my life. Helped me to just like completely change my mindset on like really who cares and they most likely aren't even thinking about me anyway.
No,
There's a really high possibility that they aren't.
they're not even
And
not even thinking about, yeah, what you're worried about, how many people are actually it's actually going through their head or something anyways. And so that's exactly what I thought of when you said, nobody cares, but do I care is really what I need to ask myself because uh I remember somebody saying something about me like working out outside, like when I started working out outside more and or like throwing my weighted vest on and going for a run. I was getting ready for a hunt and the Uintas, like made me feel so good. And somebody somebody kind of said something about uh oh well, I wonder if people think you're whatever. And I thought, you know, not only do maybe they'll think something in the moment when they see me. What the heck is she doing? Or maybe, whatever. But then also, and okay, does anything they thought, even if they said something to me, and yes, I had to build myself into this person. It's not like I just was born and branded this way, but so they think I'm weird. What are they doing? Do they feel good about themselves? Because when people feel good about themselves, they don't worry about what they think is dumb about somebody else. I never, ever see someone doing something and think they're an idiot or so, you know what I mean? Okay, maybe sometimes at four-way stops. That's a different story. Um, More just, it's a situational, it's not them themselves. But, you know, if you're doing things to feel good about you, and my biggest thing is always to go back and check your intentions. Why are you doing whatever you're doing? Because if am I running out on the road for other people to see me? No, I would love to run in a corridor. I don't with nobody. Absolutely zero anybody. and definitely no dogs. Uh, so if my intention is because I am doing something that I care about that is for a purpose or that just makes me feel good, so what? So what about if someone thinks I'm dumb? I've had someone snap a picture of me as they drove past me. Well, that was weird. I don't know why they just did that, but so what? What are they gonna do? Post it on Facebook? Oh, she's so dumb. She's running. Okay.
Yeah.
Am I gonna look dumb or are they gonna look dumb?
Well, and it
Like
doesn't really matter.
it doesn't matter,
Like
right?
that's the thing, it doesn't
It
matter
doesn't
anyway.
matter.
And that's their problem. And we've, and
Right.
staying in your lane, like worrying about you, focusing on your things. That's the important thing. I think that like that's what helped me to grow, to go into a growth mindset, was to get that, like that roadblock right there. That was like my number one roadblock, was like getting over worrying about what other people think. And I think that's a whole nother issue for another day, but that's like a codependency issue, and so, but like realizing that what that didn't that can't that's my roadblock, and I needed to get over it. So once I could do that, then moving forward and everything else in my life got so much better, because I stopped caring so much about that and started caring more about what I needed and what was good for me and what the focus for me was, and trying to grow myself. So it was it was a huge change in mindset. And I think a lot of people are stuck there, but they don't really realize it, because it's like something that we've been doing since we were little. We've been taught to care about what other people think because of our insecurities. Middle school is the worst, like you go through middle school. I teach middle school, so it's like that's where it all starts, it feels like. And I mean, it starts before that, but you know what I mean. It's a hard thing to get over, and if you aren't taught those skills, it's it's hard to change until you can really be intentional about looking at that that specific roadblock. And then once you get over that one, I think any roadblock after that gets easier.
And I think too, we default to the negative when in reality, every time I see someone outside running, I'm like, oh, right on, look at them go. And especially when I see them out there in the cold or in the rain, I don't look at them as stupid. I'm like, oh man, they are tough. Like, I'm not doing that, but they're tough, I mean, um,
But then you did that
so
today.
you what?
But then you did that today.
I did. I
So
did. I was at, it was
that's
so
you.
fun. I did not jog because
Okay.
it was slippery. So I'm like, we'll just walk. I don't
Let's
want
be
to,
safe.
yeah. I did not need to put a display of the smack down on the pavement. But yeah, it's like we automatically, and I even saw this yesterday. I was with a group of ladies and one of them was talking about, she was kind of doing the don't look at me, my hair's a mess kind of a thing. And I'm just looking at her. I'm like, oh my gosh, I wish my hair looked like that when it was a mess. I mean, she looked so beautiful. And so we're kind of in that default thinking of, when we talk about don't worry about what people are saying or what they think about you, because we're automatically assuming that it might be negative because of our past experiences, right? We know that with most people. But what if we inspire someone? What if, I mean, I see that all the time. I've got a friend that walks on and she always posts her stuff and we usually voice memo each other back and forth. And so I'm like, all right, you inspired me. I'm going right now before I run out of time. So that can also be just as true as the negative. And since we don't know, like maybe that person is taking a picture of you, Tiff, not because they think you're crazy or weird, but because they're like, I'm putting this as my screensaver because I want to work out like that someday. I want to be that diehard with it someday. I mean, who knows?
Yeah.
But since we never know, that can be just as true as the other.
Yeah.
And so,
That's smart. I hadn't thought of that. Like we can kind of just assign positivity or neutrality to something. Like it just is. It just is. It's not, we do default to the negative, but we do have that option to say this, it's just whatever. And either way, I'm not going to change what I'm doing.
mhm.
So
Yep, love that.
good thinking. I like that. Cool. This has been awesome. Does anybody else want to um have any questions or thoughts before we wrap up tonight? Running a little behind, so I know we've lost some people, which is always absolutely fine, and I get it. And I want to thank you for being here, Melissa. You're awesome. It was good class. Way good.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here, you guys,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
letting me join your class tonight.
Yeah. Big round of applause and thank you to Tonya for joining us because I feel like she added so much into the conversation of just hard stuff that we deal with. And yeah, so it's really good to have that added perspective and know that we're in the right place and we just need to keep going and figuring it out. So cool. Well, thank you guys a bunch and we will see everybody next week.
Thanks, you guys.
Thank you. See you guys. Have a good night.